right, well, I'm going to go ahead and start and record this because I know that I'll have it later then. So basically, I am in my classroom today, and to start this, I'm not representing Whitley County Consolidated or Troy. I just happen to be at Troy because my Wi-Fi is terrible. So what happened was over the last few weeks, ever since we started this whole virtual online learning thing, and parents have been quarantined and working from home, and I've been teaching from home. So I've just seen a lot of people really struggling with balancing how do you work from home, and as a parent, where does that go? And then just frustrations that parents have had. And I thought maybe as a parent and as a teacher and as a coach, I could get on and offer some relief, because everybody's trying to do something to make things feel a little more normal and a little more secure. And this is my way that I can do that for people, hopefully. So I have a list of questions that people asked, and I want to make sure I hit on all of those. And even though I'm not really representing Whitley County Consolidated or Troy or East Noble or any other school system, I have talked with lots of teachers and administrators just in the last 2 or 3 days about, hey, these are the questions I'm getting. I know how I would answer them, but I want to make sure that I am also doing what different schools and different administrators and what they are thinking as well. So surveyed a lot of teachers, surveyed a lot of administrators. And so this is my perspective, what I would do based on some ideas that they had. And there was just a whole lot of crisscross on there anyway, because I feel like we're all kind of trying to accomplish the same thing, just with a lot of different situations. So for anybody, because I'm recording this, for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Megan, and I am a teacher at Troy School in Columbia City. I am also a mom. I have 4 kids. I have a college kid, a high school kid, a middle school kid, and an elementary school kid. So I feel like between those 4 ages, we got concerns covered. And I used to have little kids, but now they're all bigger kids. So if you have little ones that you're struggling with, we're going to talk about that as well, just briefly. Let's see. I also, I said I teach at Troy. I teach high schoolers. I teach history and government, which is why there's this big shiny map behind me, because I'm at my desk where there's better Wi-Fi than at my house, which there's usually no Wi-Fi left with all of us in the house. And I'm a coach. So I have a coaching business called 10,000 Swords Coaching, and I work primarily with teenagers and young adults who struggle with communication and confidence, and trying to navigate that area of their life to get what they want and to be successful and healthy. So that is what I do. And that's kind of what brought me here today. So like I said, that I'm hoping that I can help you guys through your questions. And I've had lots of people that have sent me questions, and I put it out there on Facebook. What are you struggling with? So I feel like everybody's got a lot of similar concerns, and I feel that like they can really be narrowed down from a few ideas. Okay, so I'm going to try and do a question and answer, and that'll be pretty easy right now because it's just Angie and me on. But if you want to, if you jump on a little bit later or you watch this later, don't be shy about sending me more questions. But I think I'm going to answer a lot of those today. All right. Woo, sorry, I kicked my desk. So one of the things that has been a big concern for people is, how do I get my own work done while I'm trying to, I've got this kid trying to do schoolwork. And that is really, this is the one that I feel like is going to really be overreaching for everybody. So since this started, I think that there's been, at my house, there was this perception. So I'll start with my own kids, and I'll always default back to, I'm probably going to use my middle schooler as my biggest example, because he's the one that likes to grapple with me on stuff. So my college kid does his college thing. He gets up, he does his work. He's whatever, he does his thing. His biggest problem is that it's not quiet enough to do a Zoom meeting with a professor. And I can't help that. I offer my classroom sometimes, and he makes it work. Okay, my high schooler, her struggle is she just wants to do all of it now and be done, which is going to kind of lead into this idea as well. My middle schooler, he's just like, it's a snow day. Everything's a snow day. I mean, this is just one long, awesome snow day to him. And my elementary school, she just wants to go back to school. I mean, she misses her teachers. She wants to be there. She loves it. So I'm going to stick with my middle schooler and talk about how we address this with him, because he's the one that's like, it's no big thing, Mom. I don't have to do attendance anymore. I don't really need to show up. I'm just going to do it and be done. And then I'm going to get on and talk with my friends and play video games. And there's some fairness to that, except for in one thing that I really had to explain to them, and that the difference between what we're doing now in this whole age of coronavirus and what a snow day or an e-learning day is, that this isn't e-learning. Okay. There's a big difference between e-learning and remote or virtual learning. All right. And I think that is something that gets miscommunicated with the kids. And I think as parents, if we can redirect what our kids understand this time as, then we can kind of enforce the importance of it a little bit better. So I had to talk with my middle schooler and say, look, this is not e-learning. This isn't like, well, I had to slap you a few assignments. We'll talk about it when we come back on Tuesday or whatever. We're not coming back on Tuesday. This is virtual learning. And the difference is that they're learning new material. And the difference is also that the teachers are constantly online and trying to facilitate. I mean, we don't Zoom meetings during e-learning. We just say, here, do this, and we're going to count it. So we have teachers reaching out on Zoom. We have teachers reaching out through chat, through phone calls, constantly planning and staying online. Actually, I've talked to teachers who have been online until 9 or 10 o'clock at night facilitating with their students. And I know that for me, when it's not spring break, I'm getting kids that'll text me or get on. I see Margie's connecting. Hello. It's going to be connecting. It's connecting. Hey, Margie, good morning. I was just saying that what we're seeing is kids having all these virtual lessons and things like that. And it's with this snow day perception of it's okay, I can do it later. And the difference is that teachers are still required to create content and to facilitate, and they're trying to navigate how to do it this way, like with Zoom or over the phone, or, you know, we've all seen those cute little things on Facebook where the teacher's like knocking on the door and trying to show them like the math through the door and stuff. That's kind of extreme maybe, but really doing their best to reach out any way they can. All right. So if you're like me and you don't have internet, I do want to let you know that every school I have talked to is offering a paper and pencil option. So if the computer is throwing you off, I know that when I talked to some Whitley County Consolidated administrators, they are sending paper packets with self-addressed stamped envelopes so you can mail it back. All right, they're paying the postage on it. I know that for Troy, the way we're doing it is we, since so many of our students are food scarce, we are once a week taking food and a packet of paper with like copies and things like that to our kids who don't have any internet access, and making sure they get that. We drop it off one week, we pick it up the next. So there is a paper and pencil option. So, but what that really comes back to, and I want to make sure that we really understand that we have to explain to our kids and need to take the perspective of it's not e-learning. Okay, it's not a snow day. This is literally what we're sucked into. And it's a huge change for parents trying to work from home, and also for the teachers who are trying to teach it. So I think there's a huge learning curve there. I know at my school, we didn't even have virtual learning until the day that we found out that we weren't coming, that we were going to be gone until what was supposed to be April 13th. We were like, oh, crap, and we had to throw it all together. Okay, so there's a lot of school systems I know that are doing that. Fort Wayne Community they didn't have e-learning at all. They didn't have e-learning or snow days. So they didn't have a way to do this. So there's certainly a learning curve, but I do know that every teacher I've talked to about this has really, you know, they're trying to stay in really close contact with their teachers. Some elementary school teachers at Mary Rayburg, I know that they have some pretty deep concerns about, they've got a lot of food scarce kids or kids who struggle just, and they want parents, they wanted me to make sure that they know that parents know that they are there. They may not be in the building, but they are there and working and able to be contacted. So parents, if you are struggling, you know, your teachers are probably working longer hours now than they were before because they're trying to make individual contact every single day as much as possible, okay? So when we're talking about balancing work, working from home, and virtual learning, I wanna take the pressure off of parents, first of all, by saying you get to be mom or dad, okay? You do not have to become teacher. So that right there, so I want you guys to take that off of yourself right now. You do not have to take that hat and put that on. Please do not do it, okay? Because your teachers are trying to take that on themselves. They want to take that on themselves. It's very much who they are, and you very much are mom and the safe spot, or dad in the safe spot, and also the employee that's trying to work from home. So you've got enough going on trying to just be mom and worker from home. You don't need to take on teacher as well. We got that covered, okay? So I'm gonna really encourage you to put that boundary down and tell your kid, it's okay for you to contact your teacher. And parents, this was the greatest piece of advice that someone told me this week, and principals are still working too, okay? And I know for a fact that we had one principal in the area who the mom called and said, so-and-so won't do any work. And the principal actually called the student and said, you are in school right now, and I can still write a referral for you. Principals are still working, okay? So take that pressure off of yourself of feeling that you have to be the one that is being creative. And I love what I've seen. I've seen so many like parents that are like embracing this and like throwing up desks and organization and all of that. But if you're doing that because you feel like you have to do it as a teacher, stop. Don't put that on yourself. We got enough going on out there right now, disinfecting groceries and trying to find toilet paper and everything else. Don't feel like you have to take that too, because you don't. You're free, okay? So there's one thing. The other question I had was, we have one computer with 3 kids. And this kind of goes back to the idea of, if you are in a school system that doesn't offer one-to-one technology, please take advantage of the option of getting paper packets. That's one thing I would suggest, is just call your school and say, you know what, this computer thing, I mean, I'm considering it just because my Wi-Fi is such garbage. Don't be afraid to call and say, I'm gonna need to go paper packets. They'll do it, okay? You mail them back, no big thing. They're doing that for people, okay? So that's one way to handle if you only have one computer and 3 kids. Another idea that you could do is, if you are trying to create a classroom situation or a classroom feel in your home, that's gonna be tough, all right? And the reason it's gonna be tough is not necessarily because you can't set it up and put out all of the, like, you know, the little cans with the pencils in it and color. You could put name tags on your kitchen table if you want, but that's not gonna create the same feel because it's their home, all right? And I think we have to really look at it in perspective as our kids are in trauma land with us right now, okay? So, hi, our kids are in trauma land with us. Everything is completely wonky for them too. They miss their friends. If you live at my house, structure flew out the window the first day. I mean, structure, we don't do structure at our house very well. So, and luckily where I teach, I'm pretty used to loose structure, okay? And I think that if you are a person who really, really likes to have everything down to the minute, this is going to be more difficult for you. But if you're struggling to maintain what you think you have to have for structure, let that go too. So take your teacher hat off. They've already got one of those. Structure, optional, okay? Now, that is not to say that you should let your kids sleep until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then get up and play video games and do their homework at 2 a.m. No, okay? I will always encourage everyone to set an alarm, okay? You can set it later. Don't set it till 9 if you don't want to. I don't care, okay? Set an alarm, get up, take a shower, get dressed, and give yourself some purpose. And kind of get your kids into that habit as well. But don't feel like you have to set them all down at a kitchen table like you've been homeschooling your whole life and make this happen just like it would in a classroom. I will tell you, in the classroom that I'm sitting in right now, which is the classroom I normally teach in, if I have a kid that needs to lay on the floor for the day, they lay on the floor. If I have a kid who needs to go work out at the front desk, we're going to be flexible here because, again, you are mom, right? And what we're really shooting for here is progress, all right? We're not looking for perfection in this. It's impossible. Perfection is not possible anyway, but it's especially unrealistic at this point. So if you have one kid that wants to do their work in their bedroom, awesome. You have another kid who wants to do their work in the bathroom, who cares? All right, I don't care if they lay on the couch. I mean, I have one who does his work on the patio on the back deck. Don't worry about creating a classroom in your home. Let home be home. Let it be safe. You are mom, that is safe. Your house is your house, it is safe, okay? Let the teacher be the teacher. Don't be afraid to call your principals, and let them guide this, all right? And this is where we're gonna get into some new things. We had a question about kids distracting other kids, and this is a big deal at my house. College boy and middle school boy, there's some distracting going on there. I got one that's like, Mom, look what just happened on Geometry Dash. He plays, this is his thing, okay? Mom, Geometry Dash. And I got the other one going, I'm on a Zoom call with my professor. Like it happens. Like we're all up in everybody's business all the time right now. One way you can do this is to, like I said, with loose structure, just say, hey, what time are you gonna do this today? And if you have one kid that says 3 o'clock and another kid that says 10 o'clock, cool. If you're trying to make everybody do everything at once, you may have to give that up for a little bit. You may have to say, all right, I'm taking these other two outside to do this. You've got an hour to get this, okay? And I think that is going to be something else that is really, when I said you can take that teacher hat off and that your kid is, you've got a teacher there, walk away. Ouch. I know, moms and dads, ouch, walk away, all right? Because I promise you, if your teacher called and said, hey, Bobby, your mom says that you can't show her where this assignment is in Google Classroom, I guarantee you they can find it for their teacher, okay? They know where it is. We've been doing, if you've been on e-learning, now this may not be true for kindergartners, first graders, second graders, but I promise you for those kids who are a little bit older that are like, it's not there. Oh, it's there. It is for sure there. And, them saying, well, I can't, I'm working right now and your teacher's online. So I guess you're going to have to call your teacher and you're going to have to find this out. And then, take a look at, I get a notification once a week from the school that says, so-and-so turned these assignments in, but they're still missing these. And I will say, hey, what's up with these missing assignments? All right. Oh yeah, I was going to turn that in later today. You're going to turn that in right now. Because I don't go through and check my kids' assignments every day to make sure they're turned in. Because at that point, we're building responsibility. And it's okay to let them slip on that. And just back it up at the end of the day and say, these have to be turned in. These are required to be turned in before you get one more second of anything that you want. All right, you want dinner? Okay, turn those assignments in for me. It's okay if they wait a half hour for dinner. All right, or, oh, you wanted to get on and FaceTime your friend? I'll give you your phone back when I know that these assignments are turned in. Or show me that they're turned in. But while they're doing the assignments, walk away. All right, you can just go sit at a different table. You can go sit in a different room, because they're gonna need you to help them if they're like, I don't understand this question. Or I don't think I understand what I'm reading. That's good. They're gonna need somebody that can say, oh, well, read the question to me, or tell me what you think it says. All right, but question by question, a lot of times, if they're struggling that much, they need to be on they need to be contacting their teacher, because that teacher's waiting to know. That teacher needs to know they don't understand so they can alter what they're doing. Because those teachers right now, it's kind of like teaching from outer space. Somebody's got to radio in and say, hey, something's going on in here that Bobby doesn't get this. Okay, so if Bobby doesn't get it, teacher's going to come back in and say, okay, well, let's talk about this, and make sure that the teacher is handling that, because they're going to have to know for their next week's plan, what do I do to help Bobby? Because they're trying to keep everything as normal as they can. Okay, so again, you guys get to take that off of yourselves and say, no, that's not my thing. Okay, so I would recommend that. Another question I had was, they don't see any value in their work because, and this was a tough one for me, because the person who asked this question, I can kind of get with the way it was presented to them. This was not someone local. This was somebody who actually lives out on the West Coast, that when they went to e-learning, it was a totally new thing. And they said that the school system just said, yeah, well, we're not really counting this right now. I mean, they made it literally sound like it didn't matter. And I was like, well, no wonder they don't care. I mean, way to just say it doesn't really matter, do it anyway. So they didn't have a plan. Luckily, if you are in this area, whether you're at Whitley County or Troy or East Noble or anywhere in Indiana, we have some pretty strict guidelines on how this is going. It does count. All right. The good news is it does count, and you can say, this is going to kind of determine where we go forward. All right. Like I keep telling my students, don't think that you don't have to turn anything in, because I am not beyond failing you. Right. Like I'm going through every day. Hey, I see that you haven't done this assignment. What's up with this? Do you need help? And I'm like messaging them and trying to get a hold of them. We need to do this. So, you can say, you may have to do this again for high schoolers. It's not going to be good if you get an F on your report card and F is an F on your report card. So if that's always been something you've used for leverage, that's still for real. You can still do that. So other than the fact that they're in your home and kind of in your space and you're in their space at this point, that holds true. So we know that we get to take off our teacher hat and let the teachers do it. We know that the principals are still involved and still looking to make contact with parents and students if necessary. Okay. We know that guidance counselors are still working. All right. I have seen posts from guidance counselors. If your student was regularly meeting with a guidance counselor from the school system, they are still there for guidance. All right. They are still working. They are still conducting virtual guidance counseling sessions. I don't know if they're doing them on Zoom or Google Hangouts, according to which school district, or if they're doing phone calls. That will be different for every school district as well. But those guidance counselors are really kind of frantically hoping that those kids who were meeting with them will keep meeting with them, because I think that stability and that stability of knowing that they have those same people. I know that our students here where I teach are really, we're still reaching out with We Use Choices and Changes. I know that the Bowen Center is open and taking clients specifically with school systems right now because of the amount of anxiety. This is for parents as well, just so you know. The amount of anxiety that this is causing parents and students out of fear, especially as we get into more of the economic problems with coronavirus, when we start looking at everybody in everyone's space, the stress, the fear of, grandma got sick, mom's working in the hospital, dad got laid off. We have issues with food scarcity. We have issues with abuse. We have issues with neglect. We have all of these different things, but I'm really encouraging you guys to take advantage of any Bowen Center, guidance counselors at your school. If you work with a personal counselor, continue that, because that can be a support for all kinds of different issues, whether it's issues with your kid being angry, or attention issues, or defiance issues. Hit up those counselors and ask, hey, you know what? Don't be afraid to call up the principal or the assistant principal and say, what are you using at school that you can carry over into my house? They want to work with you on this. So if your kid is refusing to do work, that is something where, for me, I'd be like, okay, well, you can call Mr. Mullet, or you can call whomever, Mrs. Reef, or whoever your principal is, and say, hey, what are we going to do with Bobby? Because Bobby isn't doing anything. All right. Those are things that you have at your disposal. And I've had administrators say, tell them that we are still here and want to hear from them. All right. That's not how my teacher does it. I love this one because my kids say this to me all the time. And I was like, well, I'm going to show you the right way to do it. That's the wrong answer, but I do it anyway. And I'll tell you why. This is a really great time to let your kids be creative. And the teachers tell you the way that they teach it, because it's the way that, so as a teacher, I will show you, how's that? Let me get my big fat book of social studies standards that the state of Indiana says I have to teach, all right? It doesn't tell me how I have to teach them, but it does say specifically that I have to cover a lot of things. And this is what your teachers, well, these are high school standards. These are what your teachers are required to teach. And I just check them off as I get them done. But there are certain ways that they teach them that cause their brain to think of it in a different way. Like they chunk learning, okay? So you take learning, you chunk it, and you have to gather all the information, and then you can chunk it, and then you can use those chunks to gather more, and it helps them be creative in their learning. So if you are of my age-ish, and you didn't learn how to do whatever that math thing is where you have to draw the grid and then do it in the boxes, which I still don't understand at all, like just carry the one. If you still are carrying the one, carry that one, okay? Because it is not gonna hurt them to learn a different way. It would help us to learn a different way too. But if they can't explain to you what those box chunks mean, and then it's going to be really hard for you to understand it their way, but maybe they'll get it your way. And maybe, like my husband is super math brained, and he has like 10 ways to do a math problem. And to me, there's just one. There's only one way to get that answer, but he has 10 ways, and that's okay. All right? It is okay for your kid to be creative right now. And it is okay for them to say, I'm going to do it this way. Good. They don't have to do it your way, and they do not have to do it. If they're not understanding it that way, the point at this point in time is to be creative and to broaden their brain. Okay? We are all broadening right now. And one of the big things I've been pushing with this whole pandemic that is it's how I'm keeping my sanity. Like I have not had I'm not saying this to be braggy or stupid or anything. I haven't had a bad day yet, because to me, this is like the greatest gift of learning and gratitude that I have ever been smacked in the face with. All right. And it's really digging in and letting yourself be creative in this time, and letting your kids be creative, especially if you have super creative kids. If they want to go out and do their math by drawing it in the dirt, and they come up with the right answer because they dug it in a stick in the dirt, cool. If they want to line up army men and like flick them over to do math, cool. I mean, whatever. The point is that they're learning it. It does not have to be school style. All right. We have that as a blessing right now. It's okay for them to do it a different way. Now, if they're totally stuck on the way, this isn't the way my teacher said, maybe just ask them, well, how would you want to do it? Do you want to do it the way your teacher said? Do you understand? Do you need to contact your teacher and have her explain it again? Because if they're adamant about this isn't the way my teacher taught me, well, cool, your teacher's online. You should ask her to explain that to you. And they will do that. Call him up, call Mr. So-and-so and ask him if he could explain it one more time. They're there. You can, if your child is adamant, awesome, because again, you're just mom or you're just dad, default back to that teacher, they're still there. If they don't want, if they're like, well, I could do it this way instead, let them do it. Don't worry, don't fight them on it. It's not worth fighting, okay? Totally not worth fighting. In terms of kids with IEPs, if you have a kid with an IEP and they receive assistance in a classroom, all right, those assistive measures are still in place, all right? That kind of goes back to the whole idea of your teachers, you don't have to facilitate from a traditional classroom standpoint in your home, because remember, home is safe, mom and dad are safe, this is not my school, and you don't want it to be their school right now, okay? You want it to be the place where they get to learn with you or learn on their own so you can get your work done. All right, mom's got a job, this is your job. And those teachers who help with IEPs are still there. All right, so I encourage you to send an email or a message to your child's teacher and say, hey, we're dealing with this situation, or have your student do it. Hey, you remember how I always get help from Miss whoever or Mr. whoever? What they told me how to do it this one way, or they helped me sit still, or they helped me focus, or they helped me read the words. Call them, all right? Contact them. Do not try and add that to your plate right now. Definitely take advantage of those resources. And like I said, if you have a kid who is a bouncer, let them bounce. If you have a kid who needs to do one problem and then run around the house one time and then come back and do another problem and run around the house one time, okay, do it. Do 10 push-ups between every math problem if that's what you need to do. Or get up and color one part on this thing, or add one ingredient to whatever. If that's the way your kid's brain is functioning right now, if they're ping-ponging everywhere, as long as they're coming back to it and they're completing the assignments, ping pong with me, all right? And remember, one thing to remember is that if we're sitting down, I saw a thing, and I don't remember because I've seen so much on social media lately of parents who have these awesome ideas that I'm like, oh, I hope that works for you. I saw someone that created a schedule, and they literally listed out math, reading, English, 25 minutes to go outside and play, lunch, this, like nap time. I mean, they had it all written out down to the minute. Let them play. If they want to get up and go outside and play for a little bit and then come in and do some work, you know, they're going to work for a half hour and then go outside for 10 minutes, then come back in. Okay. That we have that luxury right now that we don't have during school. And it gives you a break. It gives you a break to get your things done as well. And it keeps them, if that's the way they work, now you may have one kid that says, I just want to get it all done. And the other kid is like, not me, I want to go play Legos. Even better. You do yours, and then they can do theirs. Because kids have a way of self-regulating that we need to really be able to trust. And this is kind of where I think it's going to be, you know, I'm going to kind of leave out the questions for a minute and kind of go into some advice that I would have as a coach. One of the things that I would really advise you, I mean, everybody knows their kid. Like, we know what's going to make them mad. We know what, you know, we know their buttons, all right? I would encourage you, I'm going to type it in chat right now. And some of you guys have probably already done this because I feel like sometimes I say it every day. This is a link to a website that I have. It's totally free, and I would encourage you to use it on your kids. You can do it on kids as young as 3. There's a drop-down language menu, and then there'll be 4 cards, okay? There's a red, a blue, a yellow, and a green, and they're all 4 different personalities, all right? So I know my middle schooler. Like, I know what's gonna work for him and what's not, but it's funny because I always thought I knew his personality and what his value system was, and I thought that he was an action kid, and when I had him do this coding thing, he's a knowledge kid. And I was like, that is impossible. And then I started going backwards on it, and I realized that, oh, he's totally an action kid, but he only does the action after he knows everything about it. So if you're trying to motivate a kid using your own values, like if you're very, very organized and your kid is like, forget your organization, I'm just gonna do it. Take it, like get in there and find out what their code is, because you may think your kid is an action kid because they're doing backflips in the yard and, you know, bouncing off the walls. But if they've already researched how to do backflips for 2 days on YouTube and you didn't know it, and now they're like, Mom, look at me do this backflip. They're not an action kid. They're actually a knowledge kid. And if you take it from a knowledge standpoint so that they understand it first, then you get it a little more. So I would really encourage you guys to get to know your kid on that level and to know how you can kind of get in there. So that tool or that coding thing I just gave you was created by salespeople to know how to best communicate, to influence people to buy. And my job is to get kids to buy education, and your job is to get your kids to buy what you want them to do as their parent. So it's really a way to communicate with your kid from what they understand so that you are speaking their language. I would totally encourage you to do that. It's free. It doesn't do anything. It just gives you really good insight. But if you can take the approach of letting your kid take whatever it is that they are, whatever's going on in here, and just saying, I'm gonna allow you to self-regulate this. And say, you know what, I'm gonna allow you to, I'm gonna give you a framework. I'm going to tell you the expectations, all right? We don't want to leave them without framework because kids actually need the structure and framework that they can give them, but they need wiggle room, okay? Because no kid is designed the same. So we need to have a really firm wall that is wide enough for them to bounce off of. Does that make sense? Think of it like a padded cell if you need to, okay? We don't make padded cells this big. We make them this big. We got to give people room to move and be who they are within the confines of expectations, all right? My plan is for you to have this assignment done by 4 o'clock. If you don't have it done by 4 o'clock, then you won't have a phone tomorrow. And then you take the phone, if it's not done by 4 o'clock, and you lock it in the glove box in your car. Or you do something where they're not gonna find it or get it. And the hard part is you have to actually stick to that, which is really hard, right? And sometimes it's actually more punishment for us than it is for them. That's okay too. We learn, all right? So I would tell you that give them enough structure to let their own schedule, because I know that my 19-year-old and my 13-year-old are exact opposites. And the expectation is the exact same for them. And I don't even try and make them do it the same way because it is not going to work. Okay. My 17-year-old and my 11-year-old, they're a little more similar. The two that are the most alike are the 19-year-old and the 11-year-old. I can't put these things together because all we're doing, the goal is the same. The goal is that we get them to do it however it has to be done, and we use the support that's offered to us. Okay. Does that make sense? Other things, I'm trying to think, other things that teachers have mentioned. There's some really great apps and websites. One of them that we really love at our house is Photo Math. So if you are struggling to help your kids with math, Photo Math is a great app. You can put it on your phone and you take a picture of the problem and it will show you step by step how to do it. Magic, I'm telling you. Photo Math is the best. There's another one called Socratic. It does the same thing. It will do anything from little kid math to calculus. Photo Math will. So my college kid uses it. All 4 of my kids use Photo Math. If they don't know how to do it, it will say, this is the step, this is the step, this is the step. And then if they do it a couple of times, yeah, they get a couple free answers, but they're seeing how to make progress on that. So if your kid is struggling with math, photo math is fantastic. I really, really like that one. Another website that I really like is called Purple Math. Math seems to be what people struggle with the most because it's one of those things that we don't do a lot of algebra for fun. I mean, or I don't, because I teach history. So fun algebra, those don't go together at all for me. So, but Purple Math is another one. If you don't want to put an app on your phone, Purple Math does a great job of explaining. You can find anything on YouTube, you guys. If you get on YouTube and you look up, there's teachers that teach math lessons on YouTube. There's a really great guy who does a lot of high school math that I've used in my classroom when I'm trying to help kids with extra homework that's not in my class. Or my daughter uses it a lot for math and also for physics, which also I'm not going to do a lot of physics. But YouTube is a great resource. Khan Academy has some tutoring things on there that you can use. And one of the things I want to tell you is I know there's a lot of wariness around technology and letting your kid work. Some people don't want to let them take that Chromebook into their room because what are they going to be opened up to? All right. I would not say to let your kid take the regular computer into their room. You know, if they're using your computer, that needs to be where you can see it. If they're using their cell phone or something like that, you definitely want to keep tracks on that. If they're using the school's Chromebook that was a school issued Chromebook, let them take it in their room. Because remember that the school system's required by federal law to have monitoring software and to be on top of it is the most filtered. I wish I could filter like that. It is locked tight and they're still monitoring every single site your kid gets on. And if they go to something, you will get an email or a phone call. So don't be afraid to say, you know what? I think that you've got this. It's okay for you to take your Chromebook to your room and work on that. It's okay. All right. Now I wouldn't give them like my computer and say, go do that because I don't have that capability on my computer, but your kid's Chromebook from school does. All right. And the other thing is, you know, like I said, teachers and principals, Bowen Center, I offer coaching sessions for parents and for teenagers. If you have a kid that's like preteenish, 11, 12, and you feel like coaching would help them, I do individual coaching and group coaching for parents, for kids, and whatever. So I am also doing coaching sessions during all this, and I do a lot of it via Zoom, but a lot of it just on the phone. So I just call my coaching clients on the phone and we chat and talk, and that's how I've always done it. So this is not a new thing for me with Zoom and doing things over the phone. It's kind of a relief that I don't have to figure out how else I'm going to get somewhere else at this point because I'm like, oh, good, I'm used to this. I get it. That's probably why I'm not as stressed. But if you guys have more questions, ask away. I mean, unmute yourselves. And if you guys have questions, you can totally ask me whatever it is that you want to know. I want to be able to help you guys. Like this is my goal. What you got, Ange?
So single parent, work at a hospital. So I'm gone all day long.
Right.
Come home at like 5 o'clock to 3 kids trying to do e-learning. Like any suggestions? Because we still have to like eat dinner. Like I go to bed at a decent time. We're struggling.
Right. So do you feel like all 3 of your kids run on the same sort of schedule?
The littlest runs on no schedule whatsoever. Like he is just impulse after impulse. The other 2 like get up and do stuff. The middle one's working, so he gets up and tries to do his stuff before he goes to work. So the other 2 do a little better. It's the youngest one, I think, that's, you know, just as squirrel after squirrel all day long. Sure. You know.
So when he gets up to do his e-learning, is it just the idea of you have all day to get your e-learning done?
I think I got up, mom's not home, and there's a 4-wheeler in the garage I could go put a wrench to, or like there's a hole in the yard I could dig, and there's nothing to hold me accountable all day long because nobody is here with me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And that's tough. If there's not somebody, when you have a kid like that and there's not somebody hanging over them to keep them back to that focus, yes, that is hard. What I would say is, because it's certainly not the other two kids' job to keep him in charge. That's not their thing. They're siblings and that's not their thing. Is he good? Is there something that will keep him on, like, if he goes outside to do something in the yard, is he like going from the hole to the four-wheeler to the next thing to the next thing? Or once he finds something, does he stick with it? Is he like, when he finds something he's into, does he stick?
It depends. Sometimes he'll stick with stuff for a while, but then like we jump to something else.
Yeah. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to find out how we can use that to his advantage. All right. Because a lot of people have that struggle and they will bounce from thing to thing. And it's okay in terms of, those people are also highly creative, like crazy creative, because they're always they're creating something in their head all the time. So that highly creative part of him might need to find a way to use that creativity to say, okay, I'm going to go out and do this. And what if, like, does he have a cell phone? Okay. So what I do, and I have to do this too, because I am a bouncer, like my thoughts will bounce. I have 4 alarms on my phone. One goes off at 8 in the morning. One goes off at 11. One goes off at 3:45. One goes off at 9 o'clock at night. And all it says is focus. It reminds me, like, those were important times during my day when I was having to go to work. Like, I knew I had to be at work at a certain time. Here, Marty, that is totally okay. You have to go. I'm so glad you could get on. And if you have any more questions, don't be afraid to ask. Okay? Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good day. So what I would do is I would say for him, if you can set, so this helps me, because if not, I will find out that I am, I'm doing something and I'm like, whoa, where have I gone? Like, I have trailed so far off the path. And maybe you have to make more frequent alarms for him, but just getting something that says, hey, don't forget, do 5 math problems or read 1 paragraph. And it's okay if he wants to go do those things, and then bring him back. Just put an alarm out there that says, oh, don't forget. And as long as he knows when that alarm goes off, I have to go do it right now or I'll forget. And making that, and then making him responsible for that, and just saying, you have to do this. I will let you have your cell phone because this is going to go off. And then when that alarm goes off, it's enough to say, oop, got to go do this really quickly. And even if he goes inside and does 1 thing, then he can go back outside until that next alarm goes off. And when that next alarm goes off, oh, I got to go back in and I got to do 1 more thing. And hopefully letting him know that he's got those reminders, so that he, you can even present it as this is to keep you from getting in trouble, or this is to help you feel more confident about yourself. I know that you don't really want to stop what you're doing to go do this math, and that's okay, because I wouldn't want to stop to go do it either, but it has to be done. So I'm going to help you be able to do all the fun stuff you want to do and get your schoolwork done, so that we don't have to argue when I get home. Because you don't want to come home from work and argue with them. And you don't want to be frustrated. And the thing about those kids, so those kids get frustrated a lot of times with themselves, because they're, they have all these great ideas. And the whole idea of, I have all these great ideas and you're taking them away from me is frustrating. But it's also frustrating to the extent that I want to do well and I don't want you to be mad at me. I just can't hold a thought. And that is frustrating for us and for them. So maybe presenting that as I have this really great idea and I think it's going to help us not argue as much and get your grades up. And let it be more of a positive thing than a consequence. Like, since you can't focus, here, you have to use these alarms. Say, hey, I had this really good idea about maybe this will help us get everything done so you can have more fun outside. And really turn it around on him. And I would be interested with him to know if I think he seems like, I know he's action packed because he's got 1,000,001 things he wants to do. He's so knowledgeable. There's so much Gavin in there that I see him like the night that he recited everything that happened on the Titanic to me was like one of the single greatest dinners I've ever eaten, Ange. Like, I'm like, dude, you're amazing. Like, I think that, you know, he's so knowledge motivated too, that if you can work with that and just find out what he is and how he functions and start addressing him from that point, from as a positive point. And because I'm telling you, he's good. It might surprise you what you find out. And just have him do that code thing and see where he comes. And he may be straight up action, but those first 2 letters, whatever he gets on there. So for anybody else who's still watching, there's 4 cards. There's blueprint, action, nurturer, knowledge. And everybody falls into the idea of one of these categories. It goes back to the, like, every personality test ever made follows these same 4 temperaments, okay? Hippocrates, like thousands of years ago, came up with these 4 temperaments. Whether you've done a DISC assessment or Myers-Briggs or Enneagram or anything else, they all follow this idea. This one's just nice because it helps us learn about other people and how we can influence other people. So as a teacher, I use it to influence my students. As a coach, I use it to influence my clients. As a parent, I use it to influence my kids. We're all influencing people. Okay. So if you can do this, as soon as you know, I have the actual physical 4 cards, so I can just hand them to people and have them like do them with my clients or whoever else. But this is a really good way to do it online. So, you know, do your kids and your spouse and your friends and everybody else. And it's a really great way to know how to better connect with them. It's just, it's an emotional intelligence tool is what it is, and a sales tool through emotional intelligence. But if you can go in and connect with somebody based on their values and what's important to them, you've got them. Because if you're going from your values point, like if you're very orderly and you want everything done this way, and you've got a kid who is just let me get it done, you're gonna miss that connection every time. And if you are very much a hugger and your kid's like, no, and they're a knowledge kid, I don't need your mushiness, I just want the facts, ma'am. That's a hard connection. But if you go at it from knowledge first, then you get those other things back in return. Okay, so I would really, for him, I would just say, hey, let's play this fun game for a minute. Put these cards in order from most like you to least like you and see what he gets. And it'll send you a person. And then you just like put in an email address and it'll send you a personality report on him. And it'll say, this is how to better connect with this person. So put in your email address so that you get it. I mean, you can do it with all your kids. You can do it with yourself. You can do it a million times if you want. But it'll send you a personality report, and then you know how to connect with that person based on what's important to them, so that you're not always like shooting off into left field somewhere. But I would say for him, if you can make it tell him that you think he's responsible to do this, let him know your expectations of it, and just start with some like wide guidelines. Don't keep him too trapped into anything other than he has to have 5 o'clock's too big, right? I'm leaving now, I'll be home at 5 is way too much time because it's like, I got all day. But if you say this alarm's gonna go off in an hour, you can go outside for an hour and then you have to come in and you have to complete one of these things. And then you can go back outside again until the alarm goes off. That's much more manageable of a chunk, and it still gives him that freedom. And if he can just take that alarm as that ping in his brain to get him back inside for that little bit of time, then he's free to be out there being creative again. And then he can come back in and focus. And there's actually, in terms of, creating learning from a standpoint, working for too much time is actually counterproductive. So when we have a kid that we're like, you're going to sit at this table for 3 hours and get this done, you killed it. Like their brain can't take in that much. It's too much. Let's step back. So we need to go from focus to broad anyway. He lives broad, so we need to bring him back to focus. Whereas some people live focus that need to be pushed out into broad. We're just bringing him in. So we're going to bring him in and then we're going to let him go back out. And that will actually help him when he has to come back in, even if he only comes back into focus for a few minutes at a time. Because the longer he does that, the longer he's going to be able to hold that focus. That would be my recommendation. If you think that, I mean, give it a shot. Can't hurt. The alarm works for me. And I am one that, like, I'll start cleaning my oven, and the next thing I know, I'm like digging a hole in the yard, planting a tree. And I'll be like, my oven door is still open. Like, I get it. It's hard. I'd be like, oh, crap. I mean, I've literally gone downstairs and come back up a half hour later and realized I didn't shut the sink off. Like, it's a thing. So, yeah. And if I have that alarm on there that just says, what are you doing right now? And you might have one that says math, and you might have one that says science, and you might have one that says this. So focus, broad, and bringing him back in and then back out.
Okay.
Okay.
Try it.
Yeah, try it. And really don't leave it so broad with the 5 o'clock. It's way too big. It would be too big for me. Does he like lists? Do those help him? He's not a crosser offer?
No, he's not. It's hard because he would be just like, nah, I'm not going to do school. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not going to fail me because, it's e-learning and they really don't want me again next year. So they'll probably just go ahead and put me in 8th grade with my buddies. So it's all good.
So what I would say is also just have that conversation about the difference between e-learning and virtual learning. Because I think if we just change that one word, that was a big game changer for me and at our house. When I stopped calling it e-learning and started calling it virtual learning, that went from like, I mean, I can turn it in later. There's not really a timetable. I have 3 days to, oh crap, no, this is like actual school. And the reason it's different is because for e-learning, we always know there's that grace period. And for virtual learning, not so much, because we're going to go until the middle of May. I mean, we're not shortening. Well, we might shorten by maybe a week or so, depending on what the governor said and the date. I don't really understand that fully. It was 160, and now I don't know if it's 140. There was some confusion on that, I know, with Troy and us trying to figure out our schedule. And then I don't know, because we didn't have e-learning before that, so we have to make up snow days. But in terms of Whitley County Consolidated or East Noble or Huntington or anywhere else, depending on what their schedule was to begin with, we still have to go the full number of days. We still have to present standards and say that our kids have hit these standards. You can even just say, hey, here's the list of standards. This is what you still have to learn. Your teacher can probably show you where they are, because I mean, for us, I'm like, check, 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 done. I mean, but yeah, because e-learning has this, we just had to do this feel to it, where virtual learning is an actual thing. I mean, there's whole schools for virtual learning, and presenting it, this isn't a snow day. Otherwise, it just feels like a snow day, Mm-hmm. And when every day is a snow day, it's really easy just to pretend like we can go outside and do whatever we want, because it's not really school, whereas this is not. So sometimes just changing one word makes a huge difference. Yeah. So, what else? Anything else?
That's the biggest one.
That's the biggest one. That's a hard one too, because it's a lot of redirecting when you're not there to redirect. But I think this is a good time for him to, build that confidence and knowing that he really can do it. And hopefully getting to the point where he, if he knows that it's a smaller time chunk, giving him that restraint of not 5 o'clock, but this, then fun, letting it see there's a lot of fun mixed in here, but we got to come back to this, and helping him really see the importance of it. That, that's something. And shoot one of his teachers, like whoever his homeroom teacher is, shoot his homeroom teacher an email and just say, we're having trouble knowing the difference between e-learning and virtual learning. Would you be willing to do a quick chat with him and tell him the difference? And let the teacher explain to him, this is why this is so important and why it's not like e-learning. And these are my expectations for you, because they want him to succeed. They want him to be successful. They want him to get his work done, but they also want him to go outside and play. Like, a lot of teachers are like, we're so thankful that they get this time with their family and that they have more time to be outside in the springtime. So teachers are really trying to find that balance in, we want to make sure that they're getting their work done and they're succeeding, that we're connecting, especially with kids who don't have connection at home. We want to make sure they understand, but we also want them to get the heck outside and run and play. We want them to play games with their family. We want them to cook weird stuff. We want them to learn through experience as well. So I would shoot whoever his teacher is, just say, hey, would you mind, maybe they want to make that video for the whole lesson and for the whole class, and just say, can you just explain to the kids why this isn't e-learning and what the difference is?
Do you know, and you might not know this, but is there like parent access to Classroom? Because I feel like I don't really know what's up until I get the email that it's not turned in. And I can't see like when they're like, oh, well, I turned it in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I have that with Gavin too. Like every week I'm like, screenshot. I'm like, what's up? Oh, yeah. But the good thing is that I know other people who I never in a million years would have thought their kid would have had a late assignment, and they're like, oh God, every week. Thank God. It's not just us. It's everybody. Yeah, there has to be a way to do it. I know you can get on Skyward and see what's missing.
But it doesn't show if they've turned it in, because the go-to for my kids is always, oh, it's just not graded. The teachers aren't putting stuff in the grade book.
Yeah, I've had that too. And sometimes I think that's true.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I would do? I would just call the school and ask for their username and password and get on Google and sign in on your computer.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just
He might have signed in on my laptop. I'll look.
Yeah, if it's saved on there, just log in as them and check it out.
There we go. Smart idea.
Yeah. Yeah, since they're not, I don't think there's a privacy issue there. I could be speaking out of turn. I don't know, because I made my kids log in on my computer and save their passwords. I got to admit though, I don't check in on it until I wait for them to have missing assignments. Mm-hmm. And there's really only one person who I have to deal with that. And we just keep focusing on it. And this is not cool. We're not going to have all these missing assignments, So it's a struggle for everybody, but I feel like this is a chance for us to, figure out what works for them. And I'm happy, like, if you want, if there's ever anything I can do to help, you just let me know. But yeah, I would start with that. I would start with the alarm on the phone. That's a coaching thing that I do with a lot of my coaching clients, is say, what were you supposed to focus on? What was your goal? And I'll say, set an alarm to remind you what your goal is every day. And it might just be a picture of your goal that comes up, because you can set the alarm on your phone to say whatever you want. It could be like, eat breakfast. You could have one that goes off and says 10 minutes of homework. And then an hour later it says 10 minutes of homework. So every hour he comes in and does 10 minutes, he's going to be done. I mean, for the most part, there's not that much. And if there's something he's really into and he does it for longer and then forfeits some of that outside time, that's okay too. We got to let him be a little bit flexible with that, but say, I'm going to give you this, when I get home, this is going to be done. And this is your chunk. Okay. So I'm going to give you these help buttons in here, and present it more as I want to see you succeed. So we're going to find these, these are the way that I think I had this good idea. I think this is really going to help us not argue when I get home. And because I'm sure he doesn't want to argue either. So yeah. And see if that helps, just say, maybe we won't argue about this. That would be really good if we didn't have to argue. Yeah, that's what I would do. Okay. Give it a shot. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. And if there's any other questions, let me know. All right.
All right.
All right. For anybody that's watching this recording, thank you. Feel free to share it with your friends. If you have any other questions, or if you want to know more about coaching or about bank code, you can hit me up in messages on Facebook. You can call me at 260-222-8323. You can also text that number. And of course, in the chat is that thing. If you want to decode your kid, I can tell you how that works. And if you're in sales and you want to figure out how to use it for sales, I can tell you that. So anyways, I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you guys get something out of it that will help you at least be able to step back and not stress about this too. All right. Thanks. I'll see you guys later. Bye, Ange.